Today, I want to talk to you about how the media's portrayal of men is hurting us all. And let's face it, by now, unless you're blind, you've had to have noticed it. Spend an evening watching TV or scrolling through social media, and you're going to see a disturbing pattern, one that's been repeated over and over for years, decades even. A pattern that portrays men and fathers as clueless, lazy, aggressive, emotionally unavailable, or just outright buffoons. Men have become the punchline of literally every single family sitcom. You know, the dad who can't change a diaper without burning the house down. The guy who's mocked by his wife in commercials. The absent father, the violent brute, the emotionally stunted idiot. Homer Simpson, anyone? It's become so ingrained into our society that most people, especially women, genuinely believe that's how all men are. I mean, how many times have you heard women claim that men would cease to exist without them around to mommy them? And they'll cling to that belief even when you point out that billions of men manage to feed and clothe themselves, raise children, and, oh yeah, handle complex, dangerous, or physically demanding tasks that most women wouldn't dream of taking on. Which begs the question, where did all the strong, kind, reliable, wise, protective, and honorable men, the male characters in media, go? The answer? They've been swallowed up by the black hole of cultural erasure, at least as far as the modern media is concerned. And let's be clear, this isn't just nostalgia. It's a deliberate cultural shift that's had long-term consequences for how men see themselves, how boys grow up, and how society values, or more precisely, fails to value, fathers, husbands, and male role models. The disappearance of positive male role models has had a severe effect on our society. Think about it. Once upon a time, shows and movies gave us male characters worth looking up to. I'm a bit older, but I remember in the 1980s and early 90s, we had a whole wide range of positive male role models. For example, Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Danny Tanner from Full House, Jonathan Kent from Smallville. Want to go back a bit further? How about Mike Brady from The Brady Bunch, Steve Douglas from My Three Sons, Andy Taylor from The Andy Griffith Show. We can go even further back and cite Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. Now look, these men weren't perfect, but they were present. They were strong, protective, fair, loving, and responsible. They raised their families, gave wisdom, admitted when they were wrong, and taught boys how to become men. And now, positive male role models in entertainment are basically extinct. Male characters today are either absent, toxic, abusive, or the aforementioned bumbling idiots. Someone needing constant correction from smarter, stronger women, or even children. And let's be clear, this isn't about being anti-woman. We should have strong female characters. But why can't we have both? Why does building up women require us to tear men down? Are we really expected to believe that the only way to show a woman as strong is by portraying men as weak? If that's the bar, it's not empowerment, it's propaganda. And honestly, it's not only insulting to both genders, but in particular, women. Yet, here we are. So let's ask ourselves, why does this matter? Well, representation in the media shapes perception. And when you repeatedly depict men as disposable, foolish, or dangerous, it inevitably chips away at public respect for things like fatherhood, masculinity, and male contributions to society. It's been happening for decades, and the effects are everywhere. Boys are growing up without any male role model in their life. Men have now learned that they must internalize shame and self-doubt about their worth. Women, women have absorbed every single one of the stereotypes about men being emotionally useless or unreliable. And family courts and workplaces subtly reflect those attitudes in how they treat men. And over time, this narrative feeds into the rising rates of things like male depression, isolation, and suicide. Meanwhile, women, well, women are being told they can do no wrong, be anything they want, and are perfectly fine just the way they are. While men are constantly being told they're either predators or punchlines. Where does that leave boys and men? The truth is, nowhere. There is no longer any room for them to simply be human. But the reality is there are good men still out there. Despite what the media tells you, great men still exist. They're raising kids, coaching teams, working tough jobs, protecting communities, and standing by and supporting their families. You just don't hear about them. They rarely make it onto your screen anymore. And that's why it matters that we have to talk about them. We need to call out the media that has narratives that belittle men. We need to demand balanced human portrayals of men and fathers and uplifting stories of good men in our lives. I've long argued that one of the most damaging things that has happened to society in the last 50 years is the propaganda pushed by the media, politicians, feminism, and frankly, at this point, most of society. The one that says men are bad, toxic, violent, or useless. That there's something to be feared and discarded. We've reached a point where unless people start speaking out, there's no chance it will reverse. If we don't start calling out companies and marketers who portray men as idiots, if we don't hold politicians accountable when they demonize men to try and get elected, if we don't push back against the feminist narrative at every chance we get, the one that vilifies masculinity, well, the end result, the only result, will be society as we know it will cease to exist. Frankly, it's already started to unravel. Look around you. Look at the decay. Look at the lack of personal responsibility. Look at the erosion of accountability. It all traces back to the removal of fathers from the home and men from society. And for all their crowing about how women can do anything men can, when true crisis hits, it's always the men who show up, the men who are expected to show up. Women, not so much. Tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? So let's conclude by saying good men exist, and let's celebrate them. Let's start reclaiming the narrative by talking about them. I invite you to share your favorite positive male role model in the comments. Could be someone you know, your dad, a coach, a teacher, maybe a character from back in the day when TV still valued men and fathers, maybe a sports figure, a mentor, or a friend. Let's talk about them. Drop their name and why they had such a tremendous effect on your life in the comments. Let's remind the world that good men not only do exist, but what they look like.